one haircut down, one haircut to go. This is the new and improved Endless Appreciations, where you cannot see our faces, but you can tell that hair. I am cut. I am renewed.
Mine is later today, actually, in about an hour and 15.
How far are we going? Are we?
Oh, I think it's just going to be enough to put it in a ponytail, but I'm not going to go short.
We're just trimming the split ends, volume out.
Take out some of the crazy. Yeah.
Is this Is this my my very close friend from college, Mr. Riddle? He had very long hair. Is this friend
also a teacher?
No, he's a nurse, I think. Now.
Okay. Very long hair.
Yeah. So he had long hair for his last haircut, and he wrote it out for like 2 or 3 years, and then he was like, well, it's time, and then just shaved his head because he was. And so he wanted as much hair as he could while he could still have the hair. Tom, I believe, never did this. I would have loved it if Tom had long hair for me. I would love a photo of that, but it doesn't exist. It's just short. I am fully aware that at some point in my life I'm gonna lose my locks. Yeah. And I'm going to have to become the guy with the big bushy beard and a shaved head, I think, probably. I don't know. Maybe I'll just rock the side headband like my grandfather. I don't think side headband is the correct word to describe.
You're talking about like what Ryan wears a lot, which is just like the...
Yeah, but I mean of my hair.
Oh.
Just I will only have the sides of my hair.
I was picturing your grandpa left with like a sweat band around his head, and I was like, that guy's awesome. He's a movie character.
Wilbur was a movie character, but he was
Wilbur.
Not Wilbur. Yeah, Grandpa Wilbur.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, I don't know. Every time I'm like, I'm gonna cut it, I'll randomly get a anecdotal message in a conversation online where someone's like, hey, love the hair. I'm like, all right.
I don't know. You can decide your own hairstyle. Don't let your fans.
The weird thing is something about my face shape. I think I look very drastically different based on the shape of my hair. Like it totally changes the rest of me. So if it's short, it tends to really grow out fast from the sides, and so I get like this poof thing here, and then it will catch up here. It just is a mess. So it's nicer when it has some weight to bring itself down, even though it's still really frizzy. I don't know. I'm going to consult with my little New York hair person here and see what she says. So I'm very excited.
Can we get you a fidgeter that is not a clicking pen?
Yes, I will put the pen down.
Listen, I want you to have your fidget. I have my fidget. It is a dowel from furniture, an extra dowel piece, and then something to play with. But no clicking.
Normally, I have a circular spring. It's like this big, and it's like a ring, and so you can like put it on your finger, and then you can like squeeze it, and it's literally just a infinite spring. It's really nice, but I don't have it with me.
Yeah, pointing that out to new grooms is my favorite. Like a little conversation.
It's one of my favorite photos. It's surprising how often it happens. The like close up of them fidgeting with their ring, like with their hand by their side or something. I take that all the time. Yeah.
Brand new. Well, hello.
Hi.
How are you? What's
good?
New?
Yeah.
What's going on?
In New York, I have a workshop tomorrow. Did a workshop last week, which is one of 2 reasons why we didn't record. We had you traveling, which I'm going to hear all about, with the meetup in Seattle and Portland. You did 2, right?
2 back to back. That was a mistake. There's my first learnings. Don't do back to back meetups.
So one reason I always do my workshops on Tuesdays is because if they do sell out, that leaves me Wednesday to do a second one. And there was at least maybe a dozen over the years situations where that city would sell out the first day, so the second day I'd immediately have to do the whole thing again with a new group, and it is one of the most exhausting 2 days, because pretty draining to be essentially, and this is me talking for like essentially 8 hours straight both days, which is a lot more than just the social aspect. Thankfully, there is a bit of autopilot involved with certain parts of the day because I do have a prepared presentation of what I normally talk about. But yeah, man, just being social back to back, plus traveling between those two cities, I can imagine that was pretty intense. But for me, Asheville was great. It was a good group. I had never been to Asheville before. Really beautiful area, but I will say I'm kind of disappointed in them morally in that Chipotle dropped off their catering for 15 people about 100 yards away from the actual building entrance was, and did not leave it with a person. I said to call me, and I guess I was in a low cell signal, whatever. But instead of going back to the store because they couldn't drop off, $350 worth of food to the street, they left it on the street. And after about, 4 minutes, I finally had somebody go outside and check, and it was already gone. The whole kit and caboodle gone.
So
someone stole our Chipotle.
Someone stole your Chipotle.
Yeah, for 15 people.
That's a tragedy.
Nice.
Bada bing! Comedy show, everybody. We're pivoting. No more photos, just bad jokes.
But apparently, most everything's also closed on Tuesdays. It's a very touristy-oriented area, Asheville. Oh my gosh, I had some of the best coffee of my life, though. I'm going to find the name of this place for anybody who might be listening and is in the area and or visiting soon. Wow, it was so good. But anyway, we all managed to just go somewhere and find food. But the other intentional way that I structure my workshops is to always have catering on site, typically by Chipotle, who, by the way, does not want to give me a refund. They're like, sorry, they tried to call. And I was like, I didn't get the call. And this is ridiculous. They should have gone back to the store. This is $300 worth of food. You don't just leave it on the street. Anyway, but Chipotle has a very, very efficient catering setup. Like what they leave with you is all the little burner candles to keep stuff warm, all the trays, and people can, it's almost like buffet style. People can serve themselves. It covers every diet that you could imagine. It's a really, really good setup. And they were really early with doing that as a big company. I started doing this in 2013. They were one of the only ones I could find. And this was, you have to remember, TaskRabbit was the only way to get somebody to go pick up something for you. There was no DoorDash or Uber Eats then. TaskRabbit was the only solution. Normally I would just send somebody to go get it, but then TaskRabbit started to be that, and it was just this evolving thing because what I really wanted to avoid was the first few times we would all go out somewhere to either a reserved restaurant altogether or just split up in small groups. And there's, a lot to be said attending photography workshops for the community building aspect of getting to know like-minded people that probably have a similar overlap in either style or personality based on the fact that they're all at the same workshop. So a lot to talk about, a lot to connect with, hopefully, and doing that over lunch can be really great. But when you lose almost at a minimum 2 solid hours of the whole kind of educational day to waiting on food, it's just not worth it. So I try and do everything there, take 10 minutes to set it up, give another 10 or 15 minutes to get your stuff, and then while you're still eating, I pick it up and keep talking. And it's just
hold up. You talk through Chipotle? Oh my God.
I just eat
Give
quickly.
your burrito bowls the respect they deserve. Allow people to just chew in peace. You can't learn.
They just get to, it's the next thing that I have scheduled to talk about is mostly just coming from me. No one else has to worry about it. Is it Rowan Coffee? Rowan Coffee. There it is. I don't know if that's the name of the actual coffee, but they roast their own beans, and holy crap. Yeah, Rowan Coffee. ROWAN. I'm gonna order a bag right now. Is it?
Are you gonna use that bag if you order it?
Probably not. I'll just look at it and smell it. That's what I usually
What
do.
happened to the bag of coffee beans that I gave you from Yes Please Coffee?
I gave it to a friend who used it.
When did you give it to the friend, though? Coffee is a produce, Sam.
Yeah, it's
once
true.
Once it's roasted,
a
you've
bag
got a
keep?
shelf life.
Yeah,
We've got
it's still good, but oof, it was so good that, and it really drew my attention because another customer, an older man, started asking them, do they sell their coffee to stores? And they were like, no, mostly other restaurants that don't care to keep up the equipment and everything that's involved with roasting beans. And, so they're good enough that they are in about a dozen stores all over the country. And that doesn't really matter because that's the case with a lot of crappy coffee as well. But I'm just speaking from having 3 flat whites sitting there working on Insight. Is excellent.
3 flat whites.
Yeah. Which hails from New Zealand, if I'm correct. I'm going to double check that because I told somebody that yesterday. And I was like, I'm pretty sure. Origin of the flat white, which I also think is hilarious because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're the coffee expert, is Sydney or Melbourne. So Australia. Oh God, I'm making some people real pissed right now. Australia, Sydney or Melbourne. But all it is a difference in ratio, right? Between milk and coffee. There's a lot of the different coffee styles. It's purely just a difference in ratio, and then some of it's like the fluffiness of the cream. But that's sort of just the main difference.
So
unless I start getting into macchiatos.
A flat white has steamed milk.
Okay.
Only steamed milk, as opposed to steamed and frothed milk, which is what is in a latte.
Or a cappuccino, but a different
cappuccino
ratio.
is just the foam and the coffee, which is why you can't get an iced cappuccino because it doesn't work, because the ice will kill your foam.
Well,
so that's why
people have looked at me like I'm an idiot when I ask for an iced cappuccino.
Yeah, they just give you iced flat white. Yeah,
that's cool.
Which is what the barista and I did during our little wedding coffee break when I went in to order us coffees while we were transitioning from church to
I literally don't even recall that.
Well, you were in the car, so I just went in there. I was like, "Hi, my friend would like a cappuccino, but it's iced." And they're like, "So flat white?" And I was like, "Yep, that's what he's asking for." But I wanted to order it this way so we could have this moment. And they were like, "Oh, yeah, let's be snobby together." And I was like, "You and me." We had a great time. We had a little chit chat.
Which, just another plug in case anybody's looking for good coffee in Baltimore. Ceremony coffee is pretty good, I think.
Pretty great.
If you have an opinion.
I would go as far as pretty great. Pretty great. A lot of coffee opinions. I import my beans from Denmark, like some sort of jump.
That's quite fancy. When was your first coffee experience? Do you remember?
My first coffee? Mama Ag would drink her Swiss Miss French vanilla latte instant coffee every morning, and I would sit with her and I would sit on her and she would hold the paper between us, and then I would read the paper with her from birth till I was 15 or 16. Just wake up, roll upstairs and be like, "Hey ma'am, I'm here to sit on you while I read the comics with you." And then I had a sip of her coffee one morning. I was like, "This is the most disgusting thing in the world." Didn't try it for a few more years. And then I had a real cup of coffee that had coffee in it as opposed to, hot cocoa with caffeine. And I was a changed boy. After that, it was all coffee all the time.
Yeah, I can't remember the literal first cup, but I'm quite sure it must have been my mom's, Mr. Coffee machine with the filter and probably black. I don't think she took cream, but my first experience where I chose to have it as sort of, just another experiment as an adult was in Costa Rica. And so I think I had quite the skewed experience, coming back then. Probably the next time I tried it was from a Starbucks or something. And, doesn't quite compare.
It's not the same. Not the same. We had, we went on I went on not a mission trip, but a Jesus themed trip. I don't know how to describe. It was
Speaking of which, not to derail you, but did you ever grow up listening to Adventures in Odyssey?
Of course I did.
Oh my God!
Of course I grew up listening to Adventures in Odyssey.
I listened to an episode the other night. They have an app. I was just sitting in the bath, and I was like,
what?
wow,
Why were you listening to Adventures
Mr.
in
Whitaker gets pulled over and gets a ticket because
Oh my God, because his wheels are the wrong size, and then it throws off his speedometer by 8 to 10 miles. Yeah. And so he goes to court to fight his ticket with his best friend because he's like, I would never speed because speeding is satanic or whatever. And then he does the math like in the courtroom and has the moment where he's like, oh my goodness, Your Honor, I apologize. I filled my tires to the wrong PSI. And the judge is like, well, never do it again. You're a good, God-fearing man. Go forth and be free. And then he doesn't get his ticket. And that's it. That's the whole episode. That's the moral of the story. I mean, I'm sure there's some hijinks with Eugene, which was always exciting to have someone named Eugene
Eugene's
somewhere.
The best.
Because that's my middle name. And I was like, ooh.
We have a shared then. It's actually surprising to me how many people in my friend groups did grow up listening to that, but like has never mentioned it up or brought it up. The one thing I will say, at least that I recall about Adventures in Odyssey, was it wasn't too in your face about too many of the. I mean, like,
dude, they had a imagination station where they would regularly reenact entire chapters of the Bible.
That's true. But I was about to say, speaking of the imagination station, that is what the company imagined. That is what I keep trying to get them to put up as their sign at conferences when they have their booth. It's like, make a sign that says imagination station, please.
You're just going to attract everyone with religious trauma, and you're going to sell some AI. Yeah, I mean, like Mr. Whitaker, the original voice actor for Mr. Whitaker, died. Not tragically. It just, that's what happens. We get old and then we die. He died, and so in the Adventures in Odyssey world, Mr. Whitaker goes on. He is called by the Lord to return to Jerusalem to continue doing archaeology because he was an archaeologist in his past life before he opened before he opened Wits End, the malt shop where they all hang out with the fancy VR tech upstairs. And he's gone for like 2 seasons, while, his son Jason takes over Wits End while he's there. And then he gets a voice note that's all spooky, and it goes hoo da hoo da na na moon na, and then they realize that they just need to play it backwards, and then oh no, Mr. Whitaker has discovered the original Bibles, and then like it's like an 8-series set where they introduce the new voice of the guy. Listen, yeah, of course I've listened to Adventures in Odyssey. Did you think that you were gonna get 8 minutes of Adventures in Odyssey recaps?
No, I thought.
Well.
Just wow. I hadn't even been that deep into it, but I'm impressed.
Man, I listened to it my dad's radio station played Adventures in Odyssey every Saturday night at 7:30. And then we got all of the tapes for free because my dad ran the radio station, so they would send us the promotional tapes and we would just take them home. And then I had a little tape player right behind my head, and I have historically never been able to sleep ever. I'm just terrible at falling asleep. It's like my whole thing. And I would play tapes. And so I would just like grab a new Adventures in Odyssey tape and like put it like I had the whole thing down. I knew which button to push. I didn't have to look at it. Just pow, pow, pow.
Yep.
And so the original podcast, Adventures in Odyssey. They also had a jungle themed production called Jungle Jam. They do a thing on smoking that they described as clunking, where a coconut falls and hits one of the monkeys in the head, and he goes, ouch, that hurt. Ooh, that feels nice. So then he starts throwing the coconut up in the head, in the air, letting it hit him around the head, and then and then it bounces off his head and hits someone else, and that's secondhand clunking. And then the Sturgeon General says, no, you can get terminal hiccups from clunking. Don't clunk. And then the monkey dies. Literally dies. Like is on life support. Beep, beep,
wow.
beep. And then they have to, because it's a kids show have to be like, hey, am I coming back next week or am I really dead? Oh, shh, quiet, it's for the show or whatever. Anyway, that's how I learned about not smoking, was via a monkey hitting himself on the head with a coconut.
Well, it did not seem to work. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think you smoke cigarettes, but it's,
no, just jazz cigarettes.
Anyway, I'm glad to know that you were one of the probably hundreds of thousands of kids that fell asleep listening to.
Yeah, Focus on the Family. They've got a powerful. It was millions. Like that. That show has millions of listeners.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so this brings me back to then the way we got our tapes was through our church library, and we could check them out, one at a time for free. Another commonly checked out item was the apparently called Berenstain Bears.
Yeah.
I remember them as Berenstain Bears quite vividly.
Yeah, always Berenstain.
Hundreds of thousands of other people, Berenstain.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a freaky Mandela effect.
Everything's a lie. There's a man, I was going to talk about photo stuff, but now we're talking about not photo stuff. There's a
we can pivot right back. I mean, in case we don't have, we could talk forever. There's an entire subreddit dedicated to Berenstain versus Berenstain, but I am kind of curious to hear about your meetup and how did it go with all these class members.
Our meetup was great. We only got the cops called on us once. That was lovely.
What?
We were in East Lake, Seattle which is a.
You're gonna have to elaborate for me.
Okay, East Lake is a very gorgeous, very small little neighborhood that is on one of the little peninsulas on one of the little lakes that has a cut running through it. The cut is when they connected the lakes to connect it to the Puget. And it's just a really lovely little snoozy neighborhood that has a bunch of houseboats and a very, very expensive now houses. And very wealthy people live in all of those houses. And so they, someone just saw 12 photographers just walking down the street being weirdos, hopping in people's yards, taking photos of flowers.
Oh, jeez.
And so they stepped out on their front porch to watch us. And then as they were, we were walking away, I was at the very back of the group because I was like making sure everyone was, I was corralling people, making sure we're all having a nice time, but also let's keep moving, that sort of thing. And they were like, hey, I just wanted you to know that we called the non-emergency line to let the cops know that there were folks out on the street. And I was like, yep, that is where people live. That's where they go. We're on the street.
So funny.
Thank you. And just kept walking. So we got the cops calling us first meetup ever. That feels great. Didn't get the cops calling us for the second meetup, which was.
Did they actually come
shame.
though, or
they
was
did
it
not.
just? Okay, well,
they did not, or they did, and we were already gone because we're running from the
as
law.
an emergency services person, not that I am, but I have to imagine the person taking that call is like, they're doing what now?
Oh,
okay, so they're doing what now?
They're taking the photos.
Walking down the street taking photos? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get someone right on
yard? Are they in your yard? Nope. Just in they're in the street. The public street. They're on the sidewalk. Oh, you don't say.
Even if they are in your yard a step or two, it's like, they're not going to send a unit. That's hilarious.
I mean.
Also, I feel like eminent domain or some weird law means that you don't actually own like the first 2% of your property line.
That sounds made up. I don't think that's correct.
I think that's something I told myself when I was stepping on people's lawns to take pictures.
Yeah, I think you just told yourself a word salad and said, I hope I'm not going to jail. So the meetups were great. We had a dozen people show up for the first one and closer to 24 people show up for Portland. It was really nice. It was, I don't know, like I was dead to the world on Monday morning, but
did a lot of people know each other, or was it first introductions?
Mostly first introductions. There was there have been one or two Seattle members who posted like a photo of a high school, like, oh, here's a really nice photo of like a detail of a high school, and someone noticed and was like, hey, wait, is that right here? Because I live right down the street from that. And they're like, hey, so do I.
Oh, wow.
So they had already met up. So that was great.
That's really cool.
Shout out to mostly neighbors, Vignette and Andre. That was neat. And then most people all
no prepared presentation or anything. You just kind of
no. We
just all talking about any interesting backstories or photography, genres.
Man, I got asked a lot of questions about upcoming features for Glass. A lot of people wanting series or collections or albums or whatever the hell I'm gonna end up calling it. And then a few other, surprise fun ones that I'd never heard of. And then in Portland, we had and I say this with love, but we had a significantly nerdier turnout for Portland.
Let me guess, film nerd.
No, developer nerd. It was wonderful. So we got and Stefan was there, which was
surprising.
Awesome.
I would think Seattle would own that.
Well, I don't know, man. It was great. And so we got a lot more technical questions and so people asking for APIs or ActivityPub support in Portland. And I was like, great, talk to Stefan here, not me. I'm just here to have a beer and smile in the sun. I don't know. It was... You ever have those things that feel like they are very, very important in the moment, and afterwards you're like, yep, I still believe that, even though looking at it holistically, it's like, oh yeah, that was just a dozen people getting together. That was just whatever. But I'm still like, no. Meetups are the future of our thing. This is a deeply important thing to Glass, and continuing to do them is going to be very important to our success and the vibes that we carry moving forward, even though it's still just going to be a dozen people or 2 dozen people meeting up. I'm still oh yeah, solidly sold, right? Figuring out Baltimore dates, announcing 100%. Them in a couple of days. Gonna start, nice. Figuring out more East Coast stuff. And I'm like, yeah, how can I get to Europe to do 900 of these?
It's the unspoken ripple effect of building those actual in-person relationships is beyond impactful, and it's so easy to forget now. And I think even more important, because it's so easy to forget, and most people don't think or realize it, because a lot of people just stick to their online communities. But for example, Nashville that just happened, and this would occasionally happen, but not in any way that I really, I kind of had to remind myself of this afterward. The guy that helped me organize it, Michael, who's great. He's very, social, outgoing, tries to, I don't know how many workshops that he's really helped put together, mine in his local city, but, very clearly a social guy. Yeah. Just sending me all these messages of all these different, what did you learn? What was, all these questions from people that couldn't come for whatever reason. And it's, you have probably every single person now that attended, so that's 24-ish people talking to their friends about this thing that they did, because it's not every day you get to go hang out and talk about your hobby or your craft with like-minded people. And then now you've got some new angle to talk about your hobby or your craft to people that aren't photographers at all, because it just reinforces kind of your character and who you are as a person who's immersed in this love of photography. And so that ripples out for endless degrees of separation from that original person, and it's so important in ways that you don't know how it might pay you back later. And I know I talk about it a lot, but this really is one reason why my Patreon is so well built in terms of the following, and not just the size, but the retention rate and all that. It's because it all stems from a lot of people that originally came to my workshops, and then people that knew of them from those people that couldn't afford or weren't in the locations at the time, and for whatever reason couldn't come. So this is all built from that kind of network originally, and you just don't get a sense online of the boots on the ground, real physical effort it takes to build something like that from the start. Also, Ferraristi, who has a wonderful Patreon, same thing, and he did dozens of workshops all over the world, and that really laid the groundwork for something that we had no idea would exist in the future as a platform. Not just Patreon, but any other platform would have been equally, I think, as fortified, I guess is the right word, and have the like early momentum because of all that early relationship building that we did. It also, because I remember there used to be a lot of like, there were photographers that went to big conferences with hundreds of people,
Yep.
or thousands of people, and photographers that didn't. Like, what would I do with that? It's just, maybe I'll go once. But it's the relationship building that you make, especially at these bigger conferences, where maybe it's not a photographer that you're interacting with, but a developer or an entrepreneur that sitting at a booth that launched, a CRM product or something, as a small business of 3, but you get to know them as a photographer, and boom, you're able to have a connection to make a new company eventually. Like one of my photography heroes, Jeff Newsom, who is just an amazing, incredible wedding photographer out of San Luis Obispo, in Slow, I think is what they call it. I don't know. In Southern California, he doesn't really shoot much anymore. Amazing guy, but he was able to partner with another guy named Ken, who's just awesome. But he owned a family album printing and making company, like prints and albums. They got to be really good friends of just always meeting up and going to these conferences, and they were able to partner up and start Develop, which is the pretty well-known preset company, and then that rolled into Impossible Things, which is an AI editing company. And so, on the surface of like going to these classes or going to these meetups, and some cost money, some don't, you keep building new relationships, and then you keep also renewing relationships with people that you may not see for a year or two, gap in between. But when everything kind of comes together at one point in time, for one reason or another, you need a person that does this thing. You might actually know that person.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And then boom, you've got it made. So, and in short, I guess that can be just called networking, but I hate to make it so simple because it's not.
In short, 5 minutes later, networking's good. It's good. It's good for your career to network. It's good to do.
The cool thing about it is, because photography is sort of the like baseline reason everybody's there, it's deeper than that. It is. It's not like you're just there because we're in the military and we're looking at what all new contractors have, and there's like a this really passionate emotional connection to what's going on, because it is an art form, and it is something that people have passion about, and most people, I would say, are not full time, so it's not a job to them. They are going out of their way to like celebrate and try and enhance the
That was a question I was about to have for you. So one of the things that makes a meetup, like a glass meetup, so lovely is there's a range of people, right? Like at our Seattle meetup, there was someone who had just bought their first like real camera. There was someone who had been shooting professionally for years. There was someone who shoots professionally, but doesn't post any of that work anywhere, and only shares their creative work on glass. And like this wide breadth and type of photographer that there was no, for lack of a better word, direct competitors. Right, like no one was there to be competitive. No one was there to, like scope out new business or anything like that. It was all just friendship and good vibes. One of the things that we like, I say that like I have shared this fear with Tom or Stefan, that I have been worried about as we continue to grow, is that I'm worried that as more photographers in like any given spot find out about glass and or join glass, there's going to be like a competitive thing that shows up, right? How does that work for like workshops, awesome because, right?
Because you've already established a nice sort of brick wall against that tendency to exist by not having follower counts. The only sense of how somebody does on glass is really like the comment engagement, and that can range greatly based on just the quality of the photo that's there. Not just, I mean, you could get a sense of somebody that has a larger following if they consistently get a lot of comments, but other than that, you still also have no sense of like, man, is this like a dedicated 200 people that follow this person and really love their work, or is it like 10,000 that the photo is just good enough to get.
I don't mean specifically on glass, right? But like, so like a workshop, right? Like you held a workshop in Nashville. I'm assuming the majority of your workshop is focused on portrait or wedding photography and how to improve those, right? So like you're in a room with a dozen other photographers who are all from Asheville or surrounding areas, right? So like chances are these people are trying to book the same weddings or trying to book the same clientele, same people, same area. I don't know. This was a problem that I was encountering with. Okay, so this is my own personal baggage. Now that I've thought about it and talked about it out loud for a second, this is just my own personal baggage, because when I was shooting weddings professionally, all my wedding photographer friends, like we all kind of iced each other out. It was definitely there's a limited amount of success. Therefore, I need to have it. You can't, as opposed to a rising tide raises all ships. Let's all get better together. Let's all support each other. And so I'm, like, while we have done a very good job of making non-competitive friendships and a non-competitive platform with Glass, I do worry that the more professionals that we onboard and the more features we release that are geared towards professionals, let's spitballing here. This is not a confirmed feature. I'm not saying that this is a thing that's going to exist, but like if there was a, let's call it directory. If there was a directory, so you could have your Glass profile be listed in a directory, and you could have maybe your geographical location listed on your profile and what type of photography you shoot, down to like 3 or 4 different categories of like weddings, portraits, whatever, and like available for hire, yes or no. And then there's a big search bar on Glass at like glass.photo/directory. I'm worried that people would then type in, wedding photographer, Washington, D.C., and see Sam Hurd and then Daniel Agee, and then now we're in a knife fight.
First of all, I'll say every photo directory like that I've ever seen launch has failed. So good luck.
That's a different. Listen, I'm not saying that that's a confirmed feature.
That's cool.
So,
not that I'm against it. It would be interesting, but I think that's, like you often say about the internet. Abundance is good, and having more, of something in terms of interconnecting people to see more easily all the different options that are available to them if they needed a portrait photographer in DC. I can't see that being anything other than good, but I can't imagine somebody not engaging or being, if they're so sensitive about it that they leave Glass, or it changes the environment or their perception of like what Glass is for, then I don't know. They probably aren't people you want on the platform anyway. But it would have to be very intense in terms of the number of people on there and the actual rate of conversion for them to, I think, for it to be a thing that you'd ever have to think about. That's fair. Yeah.
Is that a thing that you've run into in your workshops at all, or
nope.
navigate?
No, I will say I do trend toward not doing many in DC. People are, I think, often like, why don't you ever do a workshop in DC? I have done like 3 over the years, by the way, and 2 in Baltimore. But I do tend to, if I'm going to bother like putting everything into this one intense day, I would also like it to be somewhere new for me to travel. And I learn so much, just like how much I learn shooting different genres or cultures of weddings. I learned so many new things about people and their personalities, their struggles, their tendencies, their local thing, their whatever it is. It's much more fun for me to be somewhere new. It doesn't really even need to be an amazingly exotic Iceland or something like that. It could in fact, I often get, oh my god, thank you so much for coming to Asheville. or any other number of kind of mostly Midwestern small towns, because no one ever comes here. We always have to go to them. The big, this is a vacation / workshop thing, and there's space for that, and that can be really fun, but it does tend to be way out of the reach of the vast majority of people to be able to go to Rome for a Sam Hurd workshop or something, right?
Yeah.
So actually narrowing down to those really smaller markets and doing workshops there has been just a net win for me and the people attending, and it tends to be that everyone is respectful. I don't really get a sense of anybody being like, there's that guy who does that thing and he like ruined this for me, or oh no, everybody here is going to start doing that now, so I can't do it. The other thing is the smaller towns tend to bring in, or I say towns, they're still generally a city, but they do tend to bring in people from the 3-hour, 4-hour drive away, the next closest market, which if you're in the Midwest is at least like a 3 or 4 hour drive away. Yeah. So I would say like this is totally anecdotal, but it does kind of track, although I don't have a spreadsheet for this, with other medium-sized cities. Half the people there are literally local and live there, and the other half at least are from someone else entirely, and they just really wanted to come to my workshop no matter where, and this is the date they could make work. I mean, it was kind of freaky. I was walking around the airport in DC at Reagan to catch my flight, and somebody starts waving at me. I was like, what? Who's that? Oh God, I bet it's a bride and groom. I don't recognize them at all. Man, what is their name? And it was a couple, a husband and wife that were coming to the workshop. They're getting on the same flight as me to fly down and go to Asheville to go to my workshop. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is so great. And so that has also happened quite a lot, where people just use it as a reason to travel and not have to spend, thousands of dollars to be somewhere like France or wherever, Hawaii, to make it like a vacation thing. Yeah. So in summary, there's a lot of potential in the smaller places, and you don't have to be in New York. I mean, I sold more seats in Nashville than I did in New York City. It doesn't really matter the literal size of the place, if you're taking my approach to how I do workshops.
I don't know if you've heard, but actually New York City's over now. So
it is over. Yeah, it's done. Everyone's going to
Miami is the
right. Done many workshops in Miami. It's a lot.
Apologies.
It has changed a lot, though. I'm not gonna lie. Last time I was there, I was like, whoa.
Well, yeah. Get it while it's good, because it's gonna fall into the sea soon. Well, now I'm just looking at little cities to have workshops / meetups in.
Can I talk about an insight thing real fast? I'm really excited about, because
oh my god, yes, but first I'm gonna this, and this is gonna sound mean. This is gonna like one of your reply people who hates me is gonna say something about this. They're gonna be like, Daniel's being mean to you again. You need to get rid of him.
New friend.
Yeah, get a new guy. Here am I being mean to you. How is your website going?
I'm thinking about it a lot. Thinking about it every day. It is going well. They knocked out my first wave of bullet pointed lists of things, but putting a pin in it, because I'm hiring the same guy to throw together all the branding assets and brand identity for Insight. So we're just kind of like pause on the Sam Hurd brand, get Insight ramped up, because it's been 3 months, but I'm thinking about me sitting here doing this and how long it's taking me, and an actual professional could, if they wanted to, probably do this as like a weekend project. And
which
so
part?
the entire build out of like the tool or the service of what Insight does.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about writing your website copy, and I was like
that too.
I was like, yeah, actually, I think it'd probably take me a weekend. That sounds right.
Yeah. But I'm spread pretty thin right now. Workshops every day or every week. Still catching up on editing. Lots of emails. I made this foolish mistake of reminding people I do family sessions. So I have like a dozen of those now booked. I've done 2 already on this trip to New York, which is great. But it's just time that I'd rather spend working on insight because I keep making all these small little breakthroughs and what I realize I can do with it. And the most recent one, to circle back, is a nice little web portal. So you can take a picture directly from your iPhone camera or from just your photo album and upload it directly to the same repository that you can upload from your camera if you've got it configured over FTP. So that's one of the things I was really worried about, is just the FTP settings are so on all of these cameras are so stupid that I'm going to have to make a little tutorial for each and every brand, both video and like pictures, to make sure people have a thorough help in getting it set up. Once it's set up, it's super easy. You don't really have to think about it again. But I worry that a lot of people are going to buy it and then people don't read, right? They just don't read, or they don't have time to sit and watch a video. So they're just going to like tinker with it for a second and get frustrated that it doesn't work and then move on. But now I have a link, a secure, dedicated portal I can also include in their service that is like, just drag and drop or use your phone and upload from your photo album. If people know already how to send an image from their camera to their app, like their phone app through Bluetooth or whatever, not nearly as elegant, but at least there's a way for them to use it and start playing around and get excited about it, instead of, oh, FTP doesn't work, I can't use it at all, give me my money back, you know?
Yeah.
And also the iPhone images come back looking pretty cool. They're better than what I remember when I first started to try and play around with this conceptually, with like having to do the whole thing through a Discord chat bot, using my iPhone to take a picture and then send it that way was a mess. And the results also just seemed kind of like, well, this is just such a different perspective than my 51.2 that I've got on my Pro body, but it's still better than nothing, and it's really fun. And I'm just really glad that I was able to figure out a way without having to, because this whole process is about not only figuring out features that work, but features that can scale mapped to usernames and secure shared links that people can get, and phone numbers, right? And like you have to map all these things together in a database that actually works with more than just one person, without me having to manually like set everything up for everyone. That has been the real trick, and it's it's working. So I'm really excited that not only is this even a feature deeper, but also scalable. And I've just started playing around with Google Vision, so I think I'm going to be able to come up with a way to get a read on what's in the original photo, whether it's a couple or maybe a literal bride and groom. I haven't really tested much with Google Vision, just started playing around with their API yesterday, but be able to have pre-written prompts based on an analysis from Google of what's in the photo. Amazon also has a product, I think it's called Recognize, with the weird spelling.
Always weird spellings.
People would be able to upload more than just, without having to do anything from their side. It's like, oh, somehow flagging that this is a solo model, which I've kind of come up with a way to do that, but it's kind of messy. Without having to flag, like this is a model versus this is a family versus this is a couple, so that the output really tracks with that. Google can just identify and label, I suppose, given the source image using their AI analysis or their vision analysis or whatever, what it is. And then boom, I can flag a pre-written prompt that way. So it's so exciting. It's cool to see it kind of evolving. But anyway.
I did a little dance.
My website's the exact same as where we left it.
Great. Just don't send back the Z8 body, and I'll write all your copy for you. That's a pretty good deal.
Nikon is sending me a Z8 body, so I am gonna have to return the one that I bought temporarily.
Wait, Nikon's sending you one?
Yeah, I got the hookup. I'm gonna do a little review of the Z8 with the 51.2 and the 24-1.8, or maybe it's a 24. 24-1.8.
But then can I check it out of Uncle Sam's Camera Emporium? That's the important question here.
I have to look at the contract to see how long I have it. I can check right now, but I'm pretty sure
it's forever.
It's sort of open-ended.
Yeah, we love that. All right, I'll start writing your copy right now.
Temporary loan. Let's see. Return by September 20th.
I do not love the word temporary here, or
September.
Is it September 20th, 2025 per chance?
I already closed out of it.
Damn.
Oh, here it is.
Oh, and we're back.
Nope, 23.
Ugh,
2023.
it's
I'm
over.
sure there's some flexibility.
It's over. I'll just take back all the words I write for you on September 20th. Well, that is very fun. I love that we get a check in. You can ask me how my zine's going.
Oh,
Poorly.
sure. Okay.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm still in that struggle. I'm still on the struggle bus of projects / body of work. It's just a weird.
So for me, it's tough when there's no outside accountability or pressure for the thing. Retaining momentum, whatever the project is, it can be really tough. This is one reason why it didn't end up working for me long term, but I loved this one service. It was called, what the heck was it called? It was so
That's such a weird name. I cannot believe that they called it Oh Shoot.
It was basically, and this was pre-COVID. I imagine even during COVID, it was super valuable. But you could sign up. It was just a huge database of users, all on one calendar that could sign up as a 1 hour window of time that they want to get work done. You call each other through their, whatever white labeled branded portal, and you would formally start the session by saying, "Hey, I'm Sam. I'm a photographer. This is what I hope to get done." The other person would say that, and then you could stay on mute or not. But the idea would be to not really ever leave the camera unless you needed to go to the bathroom or something, so that the other person would have you up on their screen or their phone or whatever device and work. Yeah. And that outside pressure and accountability of seeing someone else who's working on their thesis for their PhD or doing anything, it doesn't have to be another photographer, was supremely valuable for the few times that I got around to actually doing it. But for other people that I recommended, they continue to use it to this day. And it's really nice. So that's one of the reasons why, as I'm excited and have the self-generated momentum behind something like Insight, I want to get it out and having other people use it so that there is that outside pressure of, I have to take this feature offline. If it was just me, I could take a week or a couple days and then fix it. But having other people using the thing at any moment might need that said feature, what have you, is really, really helpful for me and my ability to work. But like my website, which I was really deep into for a couple months, now it's still just on me to get the dang thing finished, and there's no real deadline necessary for that, so it's going to lag while I have other projects take priority.
Well, just wait until my wedding website, my niche wedding website of lastminuteweddingphotographer.com is launched, and then suddenly you're just getting eaten up in the SEO game by a newcomer in town. And we start a competition, and every week is a little battle royale.
Oh, SEO.
Who needs it?
I'm really curious to see what happens with the AI content writing in SEO. I have to believe that Google's going to try and say, like, "Oh, we detect AI.
Yeah.
You are penalized." But
it's bad. It's bad out there.
Everybody's all in on like, "Oh my God, it's so easy to write blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, dude, I don't know if you want to be doing that. I don't like long term. Like, yeah, maybe it's working right now.
But that's a great way for Google to blacklist your site forever, and suddenly
it's like how it used to work to at the bottom of your websites just blast every keyword imaginable relative to you. It used to genuinely work, but not after Google issued some random whatever yearly update and killed that workaround entirely. As far as I know, it's been gone for a while now. The ability that was like old school SEO hacking, was to just blast your keywords on the bottom of your every single page, like 50 of them, and bad idea. So be cautious. And what's the worst thing in the world? To have a couple years worth of a strategy that you've kind of hacked together that's not in good faith, like having a robot write your post for you, and then a meaningful step change comes in Google's algorithm, and
which happens
now
all the
you've
time.
got 3 years worth of content you need to rewrite by hand or whatever it takes to fix whatever they are trying to change to improve their actual results, to surface the best for their customer. In theory, that's what they do. I don't know.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not. Google used to work, kids. Back in my day, you used to be able to search for what you wanted on the internet and get the result.
Yeah. Well, in endless form, we have covered quite the scope.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you gotta go get a haircut.
In short, networking is good.
Networking is good. Projects
No,
are fun.
yeah.
We're working on them. We're gonna have more of them. More meetups are coming soon. More workshops are coming soon. Should we do a workshop / meetup at some point? I was gonna do New York, and then I screwed it all up by traveling to the West Coast and being exhausted. And
yeah, I can't imagine you having the energy to do.
No, I'll hop on the
tomorrow.
train right now. We'll do it with a day's notice, and I will be very
Although
good.
You are welcome to come if you'd like. Just
I
swing on
sneezed so hard this morning that
walkable
I took a
from
COVID test.
by. Okay, yeah, I forgot. That's another big trade-off of these things is you almost always leave with a cold of some kind.
Yeah, I did not.
But it's only a 10-minute walk from the train station. It's a great little studio I found. Shout out to Pier Space. People were asking me what the most difficult part of arranging these was at my Asheville workshop. I was like, you have no idea how easy it is to do these now. Like logistically, it used to be there was no Pier Space. There was barely even Airbnb for me to like find a place that wasn't a hotel to stay in. There used to not be an app to rent your car with back when I was doing these. I remember maybe like a year into doing workshops, how I was just sitting there on an airplane with my eyes wide open, like, oh my gosh, I can find everything that I need other than the place just using apps on my phone. This is so great. I can order Chipotle through the app on my phone. Like, this is so much easier than having to call people. And then Pure Space came along about 5-6 years ago. And
I
it
just
became
really
kind of
love
the
that you
Airbnb
use
for commercial space.
Chipotle. That's great. I saw
Well, it covers
life
every
hack.
diet type. Yeah, Chipotle covers every diet type. And again, they
No,
do
I love
have a really
Chipotle.
nice-
Chipotle is amazing.
efficient.
We bought our house over Chipotle. You know, that's how good it was.
Well, we'll see where they land on refunding me my money, or I may just have to pull a Ritz-Carlton on them and eject them from my life forever.
Oh no, Chipotle. Well, Sam, I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. All right.
You know, enjoy your haircut.
1, 2.